Now, I asked you a question earlier. On Monday, we had a public holiday for planting trees. Did you plant trees? That's something that we will be talking about in depth with Dr. John Chumo, CEO of Mama Doing Good. And that's under the office of the First Lady. I see a lot of times comments, people asking what projects is the First Lady undertaking. And I would like you to tell us. I've met a gentleman from your office called Reverend Kisotu, and he's educated me a little bit about Mama Doing Good. What is Mama Doing Good all about?
Okay, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here today.
Yes.
And more so to really, discuss what Mama Doing is.
Yes.
Mama Doing Good is all about, and also our matters to do with environmental conservation.
Yes.
But starting with Mama Doing Good, as it were, is an initiative of the First Lady of the Republic of Kenya, Mama Rachel Ruto. I mean, this initiative is actually underpin the pillars that Excellency is committed to do during a term as First Lady of the Republic of Kenya. And one thing that we all know is that Mama Rachel Ruto is not new in areas of development, because she has been able to do that for the last over 15 years ago. And therefore, the initiative of Mama Doing Good is actually structured into three pillars or programs, one being the women economic empowerment. And under women economic empowerment, we are talking about financial inclusion mechanisms that are actually empowering the women of this country. And in so, we are actually talking about having empowered the women for the last 15 years through what you call table banking,
yes,
where women come on board, pool their resources, and have an opportunity to get themselves loaned.
Yes.
And this is an initiative that has seen having a growth, an organic growth of 15,000 groups, over 15,000 groups, yes, across 44 counties, yes, in this country. And we would say that through that support, many women, for example, have been able to build, their houses. They've been able to take their children to school. They've been able to do a lot of development across the country. Yes. We have a lot of testimonies to that. Yes. And actually, that is one of the things that I would actually say is a key pillar. That actually looking at a situation where we are talking about 15,000 women, over 200,000 women, and doing a revolving fund of over 2.5 billion on those tables. Yes. So this is actually phenomenal in terms of the work that we're actually doing across the country. And on the same, I would want to say that we are actually looking at a situation that as a country, when you talk about the current empowerment of the women, this is actually also founded on PETA, or actually what you call the bottom-up economic transformation agenda.
Yes.
Then that's actually the first one. Number two is what you call environment and climate action. Yes. And you will agree with me that as a country, it's no longer an issue that we need to discuss climate change, yes, as a myth, or something that is actually discussed in low tones. This is a serious thing. And most of the climate change has really affected this country. And for the last 4 or 5 years, we have had a serious drought in this country, which we have never experienced in the last 40 years. And you remember, I'm sure you were even reporting here, the most affected people out of the 5 million Kenyans were the women, children, yes, yes, and people with disability. And therefore, this is a serious thing that Her Excellency feels that we need to address matters to do with climate change.
Yes.
And actually, that is why one of those key pillars is actually climate change issue. And that's why we have what you call environment and climate action. And in this case, you realize that as a country, we are determined, or we are already focused on planting over 15 billion trees in the next 10 years, so that we can actually increase our forest cover from the current 8% to 30% in 10 years. So in the year 2032. And in that case, the Mama Doing Good and Her Excellency, the First Lady, is committed through this program that we can actually plan 500 million trees to contribute to the 15 billion that we're actually talking about. And that's actually one of the things that she's interested and so passionate about it, to ensure that if we do well in terms of adaptation and mitigation of our climate change, then we shall have actually contributed to food security in this country. And obviously, supporting the women economic empowerment, because most of the livelihoods that we are talking about is about issues of dairy keeping, issues of horticulture, and all this. And this is actually rotates around matters to do with weather and climate change. And therefore, that is actually number 2. Number 3 is actually what we are referring as fair diplomacy. And I'm happy that you are saying that you have had a discussion with my friend Reverend Kisotu. And fair diplomacy has 3 programs that actually discusses mostly on matters to do with issues to do with we understand that as a country, as a nation, the basic foundation of a nation is actually a family. And by the way, the families are under serious threat in terms of very many issues. One, we are seeing a lot of divorce. We are seeing a lot of drug abuse. We are seeing a lot of pornography, for example, and many other things that we are seeing. And therefore, we need to go back and ask ourselves, when and where did we have rain beating us? And that's actually we are saying, if we can actually go back to schools, we go back to our churches, we go back to our communities, and actually say that let's build our families. And that's one of the things that we actually, through what we call faith diplomacy, we go around the country, we go to churches, we go to families, and actually try to bring them together. And also the other thing that we are also talking about is the issue of the youth. We can, one thing is that less than 35, I mean, between, we won't say 0, between 0 to 35 years is actually the youth we are talking about. And that's a very serious constituent. And therefore, we need to start discussing about the empowerment. We need to discuss about what they need to do to undergo serious value chains in anything that we do. And that's one of the things that we actually look at. And we have programs for the youth that we also do together across the country. And also trying to do...
And I know there are other departments,
I've talked about
that you have just even under them. And it seems like your office is quite busy. But I want us to talk about just the climate action. The environment and climate action.
For today. Next time I will be able to
Next time I will, that means you can come back again. But when it comes to that, National Tree Planting Day was on Monday. Would you say it was a hit or a miss?
I want to tell you that, as I said earlier on, that as a country, it was long overdue. We really needed to have actually started doing this kind of a thing even earlier on. And therefore, I would actually say the reason why we did the country, or rather the government, or rather through the consentement of that holiday, came in because we have a focus. We have a target of planting 15 billion trees in the next 10 years. And one of the things that we needed to do is to show the commitment, is to show that we are actually having this thing as a serious issue. As according to the president, this is a serious agenda as per the manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza government. And therefore, when that thing was gazetted, we were actually saying this is actually an opportunity that we are calling upon all the Kenyans. By the way, it was a working holiday. It was the issue is let's go back to wherever you are. Let's leave our offices.
And from the response of Kenyans,
it was fantastic.
So I think it was a hit.
And I think the target that we were talking about was about 150 million. And from the look of things, And from the preliminary reports that seems to be coming, we are actually thinking that it was a real hit, and therefore.
So would you say the 15 billion target will be achieved by 2032?
If we maintain the tempo, if we maintain this kind of a spirit, like for example, this was a what do you call a launch, and therefore with the El Nino rains that we are actually seeing, we can actually take the advantage. We can leverage on this, and if we do that by the end of, for example, even by the end of the year, you would have actually gone even around 500 million, which means if we do that every year, then I want to tell you that by the end of 10 years, we shall have actually hit 15 billion, and we shall have actually gone 30% of what we are actually aiming at in terms of the forest cover.
Yes. You've talked about Mama Doing Good and how you cover various sectors from table banking, which is the economy, and other social issues.
Yes.
And therefore you have an experience to understand why tree planting is so important for our nation. I will let you answer that question when we come back from the break. Welcome back. Now, before I was talking to Dr. John Chumo, the CEO of Mama Doing Good and the Office of the First Lady. And as you talked about the various departments that you have in Mama Doing Good, I could see that it cuts across economic issues, social issues. Why is then tree planting important for a nation, and how does it affect all the various, say, economic and social issues?
So thank you so much. One thing that we realize is that when you talk about conservation and we are talking about tree planting, and we see tree planting is actually one of the ways of mitigating climate change. We know in this country one of the key important economic activities that we do is actually agriculture. And therefore, the matters to do with food security and all this. And I know for sure that once we do very well in terms of increasing our forest cover, we actually mitigate climate change and therefore bring an enabling environment that can be able to do for us as the women we are talking about, the youth we are talking about, the farmers we are talking about, will be able to do serious farming that would, one, keep them food, give this country enough food security, and also, economically, individually and collectively, they become very, they benefit out of it. And therefore, the women we are talking about, the 200,000, for example, and we are talking about a woman, that means we are talking about several households in terms of the number of people that are actually affected. Impacted by that. We are talking about over 3 million, for example. And then in this case, the tree planting will obviously affect them will just improve the economy while when the environment is actually well enhanced. And therefore, for us, as Mama Doing Good, we understand the importance of tree planting. And one thing again is that we are bringing on board also the youth. And I talked about over 60% of our population being the youth. And these are the people who when we talk about tree planting, it's a whole value chain. We need them to actually start growing them. And by the way, we are no longer talking about tree planting. We talk about tree growing because it's just it's not one event. It is just a progress in terms of doing all this and taking care of the trees. And therefore, starting from the time when you just do the tree nurseries, who are actually supposed to do that? They are actually supposed to be the women groups we are talking about. We are also talking about the youth. And once they do the nurseries, the same nurseries, the seedlings we are talking about, when you talk about 15 billion trees, I mean that is a lot. And we are not going to import the seedlings from Uganda or Tanzania or Ethiopia. We are actually talking about our youth and the women participating in actually tree planting. And we are going to buy, these trees are going to be bought from them by government through, for example, Kenya Forest Service, through the CDF, through the county governments, through NGOs and all that. So this is going to really impact them positively in terms of their economic wise. And that's why we are actually saying, as Mama Doing Good, that this is an opportunity for the youth and for the women.
Yes, and Dr. Chumo, I hear you, and I can hear the advantages of tree planting. But a youth listening to you right now is wondering, I need a job. What are the job opportunities for them that will actually entice them to actually want to take part?
Now, I want first of all to remove this idea that a job is a white collar job and all that. Let us actually demystify this very bad attitude, because we are talking about, I've talked about 15 billion trees. We need a lot of nurseries, for example. We need them to start employing. If you look at, for example, you know how much one tree costs in terms of the amount of money that it costs. If you look at, for example, maybe one seedling, it can go, for example, 50 shillings. It can go, for example, that's a start from 10 shillings all the way to around 100 shillings. Assuming, for example, you do 10,000, for example, trees, how many can you multiply for example 40 shillings or 30 shillings? Is a lot of money. What we are actually saying is that there is an opportunity for our youth to actually do business when it comes to this. If you look at what the many who have actually gone to that level, ensuring that it's a whole value chain. There are those who are going to work to make sure that the walls are actually prepared. There are those ones who are actually doing the business of transporting. There are all this. This is actually what we are referring as green jobs. They are actually a lot, and therefore one of the things that we need to demystify is that we, other than the the research, the people who are going foresters and all this, we also need a good number of the youth doing this kind of work, because we really need people to go back and do a lot of nurseries. A lot of research has been done, and we know that's where the money is.
Yes. And other than tree planting, what other activities is the Office of the First Lady undertaking to ensure conservation?
No, one of the things that we are actually talking about is what you call we are actually talking about the issue of clean cooking. And we are actually saying that at the moment, about 80% of our people, especially the women of this country, are actually cooking through using biomass and charcoal. And therefore, we really need now to start, removing, transiting from actually use of the biomass to clean cooking. And that's why we want to now talk about the clean technologies. And we are actually talking about the modern stoves and LPG and all that. This is actually one of the things that we are actually doing a lot of advocacy. We have a lot of work in that area. The other thing is about the issue of converting waste, for example, what you call circular economy. We are actually encouraging our youth, our women, to ensure that they can actually, we have an opportunity. We have a lot of waste being produced in our hotels, in our houses, organic waste that can be converted to fertilizer. They can actually be converted to food for other things. And by the way, there's something called the black soldier fly, for example, that I know it has already been. It's a new thing that is actually being done and being used by to convert organic waste to manure. And that's actually one of the things that we're already training our women. We are training women across the country so that they can actually, leverage on the waste that we have and convert waste to, fertilizers and manure. And that's actually what we are actually saying as office, or as Mama Doing Good, that this is just something that we can be able to see other than tree planting. We also talk about issue of clean cooking. We also talk about circular economy. And these are the activities that we are actually exposing our women to do. And it's phenomenal. It's actually being seen. We have actually seen most of the groups now addressing that. And we are actually calling upon also the youth to actually follow the suit. And this, the work that we are doing as Mama Doing Good, it is cutting across. And today, I want to tell you that we are now having many business coming up, where we have groups also, we have a lot of waste, like for example, a lot of plastics that we're talking about. We have groups now, especially in most of the towns, like here in Nairobi, Korogoja, and many others, who are already, collecting waste and converting those waste to be recycled.
So there are business opportunities.
There are a lot of business opportunities.
Yes, I think that is what people want to hear, is that even as we are planting trees, or we are even talking about conservation, that they will also benefit in other ways. Because people are saying things are tough. We also need to find a way to put food on our table. Yes. Dr. John Chumo, thank you so much for joining us today. Unfortunately, my director tells me we have run out of time. I can tell you're so passionate about this conversation. Thank you so much for your time. We'll definitely have you in studio again.
Thank you so much.